Admitted, The Strange Tale of Depsey the Rabbit. Chapter 32. The Tree of the Knowledge of Evil. The sounds came first, a rustling that had nothing to do with wind, like autumn leaves whispering secrets in a dead language. But underneath that familiar noise was something else, something wet and organic that made Chuck's bow tie tremble against his yellow surface. Squelch, drag, squelch. Like something massive and slick, pulling itself forward through the arena's twisted geometry. That's not normal plant movement, Chuck whispered, his scientific mind cataloging impossibilities, even as his cartoon physics screamed warnings. The sound grew closer, accompanied by labored breathing, wet, gasping sounds like something drowning in its own fluids. Depsey's enhanced awareness kicked in, that terrible gift from his time in the rift. He could see the broadcasting cameras swiveling with excitement, their mechanical eyes dilating as they focused on something approaching from the maze's eastern corridor. The human eyes watching from their screens were leaning forward, their corrupted faces bright with anticipation. More blood! More blood! Came the distant chanting of young voices, carried through the broadcasting transmission. Make it hurt! Make it scream! We need to move, Depsey said. But even as the words left his mouth, the maze walls began to shift. The broadcasting arena was adapting, reconfiguring itself to create better camera angles, more dramatic sightlines. Escape routes sealed themselves with the wet sound of growing flesh. The rustling stopped. In the silence that followed, they could hear it breathing, or something like breathing. A wheeze that sounded like air moving through rotted lungs, punctuated by wet, dripping sounds that made Lucy's delicate features scrunch in revulsion. Help! The voice was small, desperate, and horribly familiar. Someone. Please. It's eating me from the inside. Chuck's yellow surface went pale. That can't be. Flesh is suitable for consumption. The second voice was alien, speaking through the same throat but with cosmic hunger that made the air itself recoil. Dimensional barriers weakened with suffering. Lucy's hand flew to her mouth, porcelain fingers trembling. Felicia? What emerged from the maze corridor wasn't cartoon logic anymore. It was cosmic horror, wearing the remnants of a fig tree like an ill-fitting costume. Felicia had been elegant once, with rustling leaves and sweet fruit, ambitious and sharp-tongued, but recognizably fundamentally animated. What shambled toward them now was something that had forgotten how to pretend to be innocent. The tree trunk had become flesh, sweating, pulsing flesh that glistened with cosmic secretions. What had once been bark now looked like diseased skin, stretched too tight over writhing muscle that moved independently of any skeleton. The vines weren't vines anymore. They were tentacles, actual row job appendages that had burst through her surface, each one dripping with enhancement fluid that hissed when it hit the arena floor. Eyes opened randomly across her surface, not cartoon eyes, but alien orbs that rolled and focused with predatory intelligence. Her fruit hung bloated and wrong, pulsing like organs, occasionally splitting open to reveal rows of needle teeth. But it was the breathing that was worst of all. The wet, labored gasps of something drowning in its own corruption, fighting for air through lungs that were no longer quite lungs. I can see you. Felicia's original voice, cracked with pain and barely recognizable. I can see you all standing there. And this thing is thinking with my brain. Target acquisition complete, the entity voice boomed through her throat. Entertainment feeds the eternal hunger. The massive creature lunged forward, tentacles lashing out with horrible precision, but there was something wrong with the attack, a hesitation, a moment where the alien appendages pulled back just slightly. Don't let it learn how to be me. Felicia's voice screamed from inside the cosmic horror. It's studying how I move, how I think. Resistance provides additional flavor, the Rojar responded, and Lucy could see the creature's flesh ripple as two consciousnesses fought for control of the same body. They ran. Behind them, the possessed fig tree crashed through the maze walls, but her pursuit was erratic, confused. The entity was still learning to operate cartoon physics, while Felicia's consciousness threw up every barrier she could manage. Tentacles would reach for them, then suddenly withdraw as the original personality fought back. "I don't want to eat you!" Felicia's voice called after them, petulant even in cosmic horror. "I hate you all, but I don't want to consume you." "Suffering amplifies dimensional harvest," the entity replied coldly. The broadcasting cameras followed eagerly, floating through the air to capture every angle of the pursuit. Chuck could hear the arena's announcement system crackling to life, describing the chase for their audience of corrupted souls. But it was the voices themselves that made his cartoon physics recoil in horror. "Eat them. Eat them. Make the yellow one cry first. More tentacles. Use more tentacles." Young voices, innocent voices, demanding violence with the casual cruelty of kids pulling wings off flies. "This way!" Depsey shouted, his Rift experience letting him navigate the impossible geometry. But even as they turned down the corridor, the walls began to shift. The plant creature could still control some of the arena's structure, roots bursting through the floor, but these weren't roots anymore. They were veins, pulsing with cosmic blood. Chuck stumbled as a fleshy appendage erupted from the ground beneath his feet, but he rolled away just in time. His scientific mind was cataloging horrors, even as they fled. The enhancement process. It's not modification, it's possession. Something's wearing her like a suit. "That's right," Felicia's voice cracked with vindictive misery. "They promised me enhancement, and instead I got eaten. But you probably think I deserve it." Entertainment value rising, the entity noted with satisfaction. Audience engagement optimal. The maze wall beside them exploded outward, and through the gap came something that had once been Felicia's elegant trunk, but was now a writhing mass of flesh and tentacles, sweating cosmic fluids that made the air taste of copper and despair. Lucy saw Chuck freeze. Her friend, brilliant, analytical Chuck, had stopped running. He was staring at the approaching horror with his scientific mind, trying to understand the mechanics of possession, cataloging the way Felicia's consciousness fought against the cosmic intrusion. "Chuck!" Lucy screamed, but the yellow chatterbox didn't move. His analytical nature had trapped him, fascinated by the impossible biology of what Felicia was becoming. The tentacles reached for him, dripping with enhancement fluid, and Chuck just stood there, lost in scientific observation of his own approaching doom. Lucy didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She didn't listen to the voice in her head that had spent so long telling her she wasn't brave enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't worth enough to matter. She ran straight at the cosmic horror that had been Felicia Figtree. "Lucy, no!" Felicia's original voice shrieked, not in hunger, but in warning. "Don't! I can't stop it!" But Lucy had seen something in that moment of hesitation. The original Felicia was still there, still fighting, and for just an instant their eyes met across the horror of transformation. And Lucy saw Felicia make a choice. The tentacles that could have easily stopped Lucy's approach suddenly went slack. The alien eyes that should have tracked her movement looked away. The cosmic intelligence that had been calculating optimal capture angles suddenly didn't. Felicia was letting her come. Lucy hit the writhing mass of flesh and tentacles at full speed, her porcelain body shattering like a bomb of delicate beauty. Sharp fragments tore into the organic corruption, slicing through cosmic flesh that screamed in frequencies that hurt to hear. Enhancement fluid, thick, black, and reeking of cosmic waste, sprayed from a dozen wounds as Lucy's porcelain shards cut deep into the entity's borrowed body. "Pain! Dimensional breach! Structural failure!" the Rojob voice howled, its borrowed throat gurgling with enhancement fluid. But it was Felicia's voice that broke Lucy's heart as she died. "Thank you." Small, grateful, and finally free to speak without the entity's permission. "Thank you for letting me choose." The massive creature, 20 feet of cosmic horror and corrupted flesh, collapsed as enhancement fluid poured from its wounds like oil from a punctured tank. The alien eyes across its surface rolled wildly, some focusing on the approaching death, others searching desperately for help. "Please!" Felicia's voice, weak now, fading as the cosmic entity began to abandon its damaged host. "I'm dying. Help me. Please." The response came from the broadcasting transmission, the voices of the confused and corrupted, their innocent throats carrying sounds that would have made demons weep. Laughter. High, clear, musical laughter from kids who had been trained to find suffering hilarious. "She's begging. She's begging." Do the crying voice again. "Make her say please more." This is the best part. Felicia's alien eyes rolled toward the floating cameras, seeking mercy from an audience that had been systematically taught to find pain entertaining. The twisted throat's laughter grew louder, more delighted as she convulsed in her death throes. "Why?" she whispered, enhancement fluid bubbling from what had been her mouth. "Why are they laughing?" The cosmic entity was already gone, abandoning its damaged host without a second thought. What was left was just Felicia, ambitious, sharp-tongued, unpleasant Felicia, dying alone while the audience laughed at her suffering. Her last words were barely audible over the broadcasting transmission. I wanted to be important." Then silence. Chuck stood frozen, his yellow surface streaked with enhancement fluid and porcelain dust, staring at the place where Lucy had been. Depsey grabbed his friend's arm, pulling him away from the spreading pool of cosmic corruption that had been two of their colleagues. Above them, the laughter continued, bright and innocent and utterly without mercy. The broadcasting cameras were already turning away, their attention shifting to other parts of the arena. The young audience was getting bored, demanding new entertainment, their brief attention span requiring constant stimulation. The arena maintenance systems moved in with mechanical efficiency, extending cleaning appendages to remove the organic debris. There was no ceremony, no acknowledgement, just industrial disposal of used entertainment. As Chuck and Depsey reached the arena's exit portal, Chuck finally spoke, his voice hollow. "Lucy saved me, and Felicia chose to let her." "I know," Depsey said quietly, his enhanced awareness showing him the truth of that final moment. She could have stopped Lucy. She didn't. Behind them, the arena was already resetting itself, preparing for the next phase of entertainment. The broadcasting system had learned from this interaction. The next scenario would be more efficient, more engaging for their audience. Two friends had died in that maze, but in their deaths, they had chosen love over corruption, sacrifice over survival, authenticity over enhancement. They had reminded Chuck and Depsey what it meant to be real in a world designed to make everything artificial. It was a lesson written in porcelain shards and cosmic blood, witnessed by an audience of flesh and blood who had been taught to laugh at love. But the lesson remained, even if its teachers were gone. And perhaps in some dimension where creators still cared about their characters, that would be enough.